Today we get to do cool stuff with the Nova. Well, first we gotta do boring stuff. I gotta check the timing again because I made an adjustment so that the two boxes, the two things will read correctly. So I got my trusted timing light. Gonna check the timing again. By the way, this is my favorite timing light. I'm gonna check the timing again, make sure that's where I want it. We're gonna warm it up a little bit, and then we gotta do a systems check. So put it on the ground, we're gonna kick it outside, we're gonna make sure the brakes all work good, make sure it goes into gear good, make sure it idles good, and then we're gonna make sure the stage is good. So basically make sure it goes on the brake, make sure it hits the two-step, make sure the two-step is where we want it to be. Little things like make sure it doesn't die if you come off the two-step, make sure, make sure it revs clean, make sure we want to know that we're ready to take it and put it in the trailer and go somewhere with it.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
Boots. This is the scary part.
Turbo guys know this because they spool their cars all the time, especially if they don't spool worthy crap. They're practicing them first thing in the morning. But most people don't practice their two-step very much. Bracket guys do, turbo guys do, but like if you think about it, you're taught from go that when you let go of the button, you keep your foot planted and you let go with your hand. And so you transbrake, floor it, let go with your hand. The first 3 or 4 times you try to do that, most people will transbrake, floor it, and then they let go with their foot and their hand at the same time. Or they just let go with their foot and they just sit there. Because you're trained in normal life, when you pull up on the brake, the car goes. Learning to put something on the two-step effectively without being dangerous is tough. And not everybody does it very well. I mean, most guys, the first time they spool a turbo car, they get nervous, and I did it. It spools and it's up there and it's banging off the chip and stuff, and you're just trained to let go with your finger, your thumb.
Well, you don't want it to stay on the chip forever, so you're always like, make it stop,
If you've been racing for any amount of time, it's burned into your brain to let go of the button as soon as you possibly can. The instant it's ready, you let go of the button. Or the instant the tree comes down or whatever. It's hard to remember to let off with your foot and keep your hand on the transbrake. Which is why when we do this, we don't do it in the shop. We don't do it while it's pointed at stuff. Like, she's gonna pull it out here, out of the shop, point it away from anything that's worth having, and then she puts it on the brake. Then worst case scenario, we usually do it in the gravel out front, but it's muddy out there. But worst case scenario, if she lets go of the button instead of her foot, it will just skirt the tires and roll, 5 foot or whatever and stop. No big deal. It happens to people all the time. But when you see the accidents is when people are doing it in their pit, against their trailer, in the back of their shop, or, with other cars around. Like that's, they smash in their toolbox. Like shit happens. So she's gonna fire it up, pull it out here, let it idle for a second, clean it out, whatever she got to do, whatever nitrous you guys do, I don't know. Reach up, hit a bunch of buttons, I don't know. Put it on the brake, and then just count to, 3 or 4 while it's on the brake, so we know, so we have good data on what it went to, and then it sat there. And then when she lets off with her foot, and it comes back towards idle or whatever, then she can let off with her, puts her foot on the foot brake, then she can let off the handbrake. So we're gonna test that real quick. Time to street this thing up. We're gonna pop some headlights in this deal. Normally it's pretty easy. You just find center of this, drill your hole, set the headlight in from the back, panel bond it in, let it dry, and you're done. But these this deal here, they had no intention of putting headlights in this deal, as you can see. This one I think is even worse. So we're gonna have to do some reconfiguring of this situation here. Probably cut this bar out, trim it, lower it down to here. If we have to cut this bar out, we may just notch it, you know what I mean? Or we might actually tee off of here, since you can't get to the metal anymore. We might tee off of here and then go down, cut this part out, and then where this bar goes through, we'll bring it all the way across. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see what happens, you never know. The adventures of street race car, street-ish car. You know what I mean. As you can see, our dilemma. Normally this car would get a 7-inch round headlight, but because of all the issues back there, we are going to try a little smaller headlight first, see if we can make that fit, and if so, and it doesn't look too bad, then we may leave it for a little while, or we may just redo it all and put a 7-inch in it. We'll see. So we got our holes cut. Now we just got to get rid of, it's just wild to think that when they were doing this front end, they were like, we're just going to go right through there. Hopefully they don't ever want to have to put headlights in this deal. That's why we got tools and we know how to use them. There we go. So much more room for activities. Let's see, the plan is here to take the light, pop it in there, and we'll glue it in. And it'll be streetcar AF. We gotta clean up those edges and turn it on its head and do some gluing. Okay, so we got the front end tilted up here. I went ahead and just touched this a little bit with a roll lock disc, nothing major, just to knock any grease or whatever off, oil, who knows. We got it sitting up on a bar stool, straight up and down. We're gonna apply a little bit of panel bond here and a little bit of panel bond here, set the light in there, try and get it exactly where we want it, and then we may put a little bit here and here. On this one, the front end drops way down here for some reason. Not sure if it's a previous repair or if it's just the way it is, but the light rocks a bunch in the bezel or in the front end. We're gonna get about where we want it, and then we'll panel bond the shits out of it. Okay, so headlights are in. This is kind of what I came up with here as far as the putting the bracing back in, kind of cutting around the light there and then welding all that together, and then it should be, you know, as good as it can be anyway. Okay, so there's what we ended up with. You got little notches there for the headlights, and then diagonals back over, and once it gets all oily or rusty or beat up or whatever, it'll look just like the rest of it. Nobody will ever know. I mean, not too bad for it. Not too bad. Not too bad. Got a little finishing up to do there on the wrap job or whatever, but parking lights right here. String some wires and we'll be street AF.